What's going on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you. Today, welcome back to NHL 25. We're back here on Online Versus, repping the home nation, the USA. In our Four Nations face-off tournament recap video, getting some revenge on Team Canada. And I just wanted to talk about this, right? There's a huge event this last, week or two, where four teams from kind of like the international side of hockey, being the USA, Canada, Sweden, and Finland. Of course, there's other teams out there, but just for this one, there was just the four teams. But still, crazy event. Now, there was kind of like a top two favorites with maybe a sneaky one that could have gotten in. But for the most part, this was a crazy battle. The amount of talent on each one of these teams is incredible, right? So obviously you have bigger names, like Russia and like the Czech Republic. These four teams put on one heck of a show. So just for some context, the Canada-Finland game averaged around 700,000 viewers. The USA-Finland game averaged about 1.5 million. The Finland-Sweden game averaged 1.3 million. What else is here? Those are just some crazy numbers. And this was the most watched non-Stanley Cup final game since 2014. Right, so in the last 11 years, the USA-Canada game, I think this is the championship they're talking about, drawing 10.1 million people across North America. And like I said, it's the most watched non-Stanley Cup final game since 2014. So that is amazing, right? Crazy percentages up. So many good matchups, so many good players. And I just want to talk about this because, we kind of did away with the All-Star game, at least the All-Star weekend or the week, for this year. And obviously most of these players probably would have been in that All-Star discussion. But at the same time, these games were intense. This was an exhibition. And I use air quotes for that because this was supposed to be not even like a fun little tournament, but when you get guys that want to represent their country involved and you put on that jersey, these guys went nuts. These guys were playing through injuries. They were playing through illnesses. They were doing everything they could possibly do to play for their country. And that's just incredible, right? You hear that kind of thing for the military, I would die for my country. I'd take a bullet for my country. I would serve my country wherever. Right? Those guys have cojones out the wazoo. But then you have these hockey players that are like, yeah, I know it's time where we could have a couple weeks off and, relax and, chill and recover and, heal some bumps and bruises and maybe some other illnesses or injuries that you might have. But no, right? These guys went hard. And I mean hard, right? So obviously, the big elephant in the room I haven't mentioned yet. Congratulations to Team Canada. They did end up winning in overtime versus the USA. Crazy game, right? Absolutely crazy game. It was incredible to watch. One of those, Game 7 Stanley Cup Final type games. That's what it felt like. I know when I was watching Vegas win, their Stanley Cup, just every second of the game, it's just you want to tune in. You have to tune in. You got to watch what's going on. And this game was no different. I know the first time they matched up in the tournament and in the round robin phase, they had 3 fights within the first 10 seconds of the game, right? First one, off opening face-off. It was, Matthew Tkachuk versus, Brandon Hagel. The second one, Sam Bennett versus Brady Tkachuk. Third one, JT Miller versus Colton Parayko. Back-to-back face-offs, you have a fight, and then basically dumps it on the goalie. Third fight comes in. 3 fights within the first 9, I think it was 9 seconds overall. But that's just incredible. That's how you start a hockey game. Other than a line brawl, or a full-blown brawl, that's probably the best way you could start a game for the fans, right? And to have the Kachuk brothers, the Bash brothers, whatever you want to call them, just incredible to watch, right? I would probably score the 3 fights 2-1 for the USA. Just saying, 2 being the Kachucks, and then the 1 loss being JT Miller. But JT Miller's not really much of a fighter. He'll defend himself if he has to, but, he's not really much of a fighter. And, Colton Parayko, he's not really much of a fighter. Well, I guess but they're not fighters. Kachucks are, for sure. But that's just incredible, right? So when you look at all these viewership and all these talented players, you have players who even was playing the third line. I'm trying to think of the rosters now, but you have guys that are superstars on their team or star players on their team that are playing third or even fourth line minutes. That's just incredible. The fact that you have Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby, one of those guys is on the second line, is incredible to me. Nathan McKinnon there too. These rosters were stacked. Hell of a matchup. And honestly, it's the best thing to happen to hockey. I don't even know. Since, what even is there? This might be the best thing ever to happen to hockey. Plain and simple. It's actually crazy. I was going to kind of make it its own video, but I kind of feel like mentioning it here too. So maybe I'll make a separate one as well, talking more, deep dive into it. But the fact that some NBA players, some professional basketball players will sit out for games, multiple games in a row because they have a sore foot or a sore this or a sore that. And you practically have to chain a guy down to the bench. Matthew Tkachuk, he didn't play almost any of the hockey game. He tried, but I think they said he had a groin issue. But he wanted to play. He wanted to be out there. He wanted to help his country win. And especially he wanted to help the team win. And he wanted to get out there. I think it was last year, the year before, he played the Stanley Cup Finals with a broken sternum. In case you don't know what your sternum is, it's your chest. Your top, above your ribs and above your heart and your lungs and all this kind of area. A broken that. And he's playing. Or people play with broken ankles and injuries and hurt shoulders and this and that. And you're telling me you're sitting out because you have a sore foot? This is why I will never understand why hockey is not the #1 sport in the world. Right? I know football is huge. Baseball has its dedicated fans, but a lot of people don't get into baseball just simply because they think it's boring. But there's not a ton of action with baseball. Once there's action, it's super exciting. Or once you get, games that mean something, you got excitement. Hockey, you got every single second of the game. And there might be the quick regroup line change where it's kind of hanging out for a second, hanging behind the net. But then once they, switch out and they start moving up the ice, then it's right back into the action. Basketball, you're sitting out for a sore foot. I know myself, if I was playing this level, right, professional hockey, and then to go, I arguably say one step further, playing for your country, and you're sitting out for an all-star weekend with a sore foot? No. You can't do that, right? And I know, obviously, baseball, hockey, soccer are kind of my 3 go-to sports. Never really been into football, never really been into basketball. But, of course, was always a typical kid that was oh, yeah, I could, I'm a Kobe Bryant fan. I'm a Lakers fan. Just because they were, the biggest name there. Same thing with football. Patriots were kind of the #1 team, but didn't really care about the Patriots. Then the Eagles won one year, and then I was an Eagles fan. Then the Cardinals won, or a lot of it was just I wanted to cheer against my brother, which is kind of funny. So I never really cared about those other sports. So it's I stuck with the 3. I have my teams now. Most of them, some of them are kind of back there. I guess I need a Yankees jersey next, but for the most part, this was incredible. An amazing step forward for hockey. I believe they said the Olympics are next year, which they're going to be a part of. So that's awesome to see. Get back and, play for the country, and hopefully USA will, do a little bit better than they did this time. But still, crazy games, Crazy event. Heck of a final game. Not happy with the result, but still. Can we just talk about it real quick? How do we leave Connor McDavid wide open between the hash marks in the slot, wide open in a championship game? How do we do that? How do we leave arguably the best player in the world wide open in a championship game? Now, I know watching it, hindsight's 2020, you look back at it now, you're not in the game. I get it. I get the arguments. I'm mainly making it as a joke. Obviously, I don't play professional hockey. But defenseman went to the corner. I think it was Austin Matthews went to the corner as well. Left him open in front of the net. He grabs it, rips it top shelf. They win, right? So congrats to Canada. Sidney Crosby, the rest of the team. You know, Connor McDavid, obviously, with the game winner. Congrats to you guys. But USA Hockey, we're going to come back. We're going to get back in action. Hopefully next year. You know, hopefully everyone's healthy. We were missing a few players, right? If we had a fully healthy Matthew Tkachuk, we were supposed to have Quinn Hughes there. Kyle Connor's another name that should have been there. I'm trying to think of who else was there. Obviously, our hurt Charlie McAvoy wasn't playing, or he did the first game but then got hurt. But then also Canada had a few injuries as well. So great tournament, great round robin, great matchups, and even better final. Tough times for the U.S. But either way, guys, I hope you did enjoy. If you did, hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next one.